Let's compare some sentences. So look at the sentences in the left column here and find the doer for me.
Bob ate. Bob is the doer.
Uh-huh.
The baby slept. The baby is the doer.
Mm-hmm.
The children played. The children are the doer.
Yep. And let's look at the right column. Same thing.
He ate. He is the doer.
Mm-hmm.
She slept. She is the doer.
Mm-hmm.
They played. They are the doer.
Okay, so in this right column, is there anything you observe about the doers? He, she, they. Those are all...
They're all pronouns.
Right, they're all pronouns. Compare that to the left column. Bob, the baby, the children. Those are...
Non-pronouns?
Yeah, they're not pronouns, right? Non-pronouns, we can call them, or just normal nouns. Pronouns. Okay, so this is actually the two types of doers we have in Arabic. So we have pronoun doers or non-pronoun doers, which we're also going to call outside doers and embedded doers. So an outside doer is when the doer is not a pronoun, right? We can also call this a non-pronoun doer.
So they're like Bob and the baby and the children.
Yep, those are non-pronoun doers. And then embedded doers are what we're going to call pronoun doers, like he, she, it, they. Okay. So why are we calling these embedded doers? You remember what we studied our last two lessons?
Conjugations.
We studied conjugations, and a conjugation is?
When action changes form depending on who the doer is.
Right, when the action changes form depending on who the doer is. So if we look at our conjugation charts, what do you notice about all the doers in the chart? He made, they made, she made, you made.
They're all pronouns.
Right, they're all pronouns. Right, they're all pronouns. So everything, all the actions in this chart have pronoun doers. Right, and do you remember what we called pronoun doers, the other name for it? We were also calling it?
Embedded?
Embedded doers, right? Any guess as to why?
No.
No. Well, it's because the doer is embedded within the action.
What do you mean embedded within the action?
It's not a separate word, basically.
Oh, okay.
So it's like coded into the action.
All right. Yeah, I see. It's like it's attached.
Almost. It's attached, right? We studied the indicators, right? The indicators are stuck to the action, right? They're not separate words, right? And so the indicator kind of is like a code for the doer that's hiding within the action.
Okay.
Right? And so that's why we're calling pronoun doers embedded doers.
All right.
Okay. And then as for outside doers, we actually studied this way back. Right, the first time we studied doers, we were actually studying a specific kind of doer, which is outside doers, because we hadn't studied embedded doers yet. And so let's look at an example of what we've already seen before. But we can just say, Arsala Allahu. Right, and the word Allah, obviously, not a pronoun. And so, Arsala Allah, normal action sentence, we have Arsala, right, that's our action. And then the word Allah has a doer label, right? So that's our doer. And any guess as to why we're calling it an outside doer?
It's outside of the action?
It's outside of the action, right? So it's the opposite of an embedded doer, where you have your doer kind of embedded within the word itself. Here we have our doer outside of the action.
Okay.
Right, and so we've already studied this, right?
So it's outside doer is basically just like the normal doer rules that we had learned before, like, it's in an action sentence and it gets the doer label.
Yep. So what we learned before doesn't change, right? Just because we learned something new, right?
So we're just giving it a name, basically.
Yeah, we're just giving it a name because now we learned another kind of doer that we hadn't learned before. So we're kind of putting labels on them so that we can differentiate. So we have our outside doer that we learned way back, right? It's just a normal old word that comes after an action, has a doer label, right? We saw plenty of that. And then we have the embedded doers, which we just learned recently, which is our pronoun doers, right? And that's when an action conjugates and, according to who the doer is.
And we have the indicators and stuff.
Yeah, we have the indicators on the end. We have our past. We have our present. So is that clear? Our two types of doers? Outside and embedded? Okay. So we're just going to add one little bit of information about outside doers. Right, which we already learned. Now that we've learned conjugations, this rule will make sense. It wouldn't have made sense before. So when the doer is not a pronoun, in other words, when we have an outside doer, there are three rules, right? Three conditions. One, it'll come after the action, which we already know, right? Two, it'll have a doer label,
which we already knew.
We already know, right? Un, ani, una, atun. We've seen plenty of that. Number 3, this is actually the only new rule, and that is the action, when you have an outside doer, the action will only ever be either in the hua form or the hiya form. You remember what the hua form, hiya form in the past tense?
A past tense.
The hua form was?
Hua was ja'ala.
Yeah, ja'ala. And then hiya was?
Ja'alat.
Ja'alat. Right? So if you have an outside doer, your action will only be in one of these two forms.
Okay.
And then same rule applies for present tense. Right? So the hua form for present tense was?
Yaj'alu.
Yaj'alu. And then the hiya form was?
Taj'alu tan'u.
Yeah, tan'u, taj'alu. Okay. Does this rule make sense? Shall we look at some examples?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so قال الله. قال الله. What do you notice about the action here? The action is?
In the hua form?
Yeah, it's qala, right? And it's in the hua form, right? So that's the new rule that we just learned. And then the 2 old rules that we already knew. The doer Allahu is?
After and has the doer label.
Has the doer label. Good. جاءتهم البينات. Our action is?
Ja'at.
Ja'at, right? Which is, what do you notice in the what form?
Hiya.
It's in the hiya form. And then hum is?
Receiver.
That's a receiver. Good.
Pronoun attached in action, always receiver.
Good. And then al-bayinat is?
Is doer atu label.
Yeah. So we have it coming after the action and it has the doer label.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So those are 3 rules checking off. يتخذ المؤمنون. Our action is?
يتخذ.
يتخذ. What can you tell me about the action?
It's present hua.
Good. It's present tense, right? And we know it's hua because of the
Ya and u.
Ya and u combination. So that's in the hua form. And then al-mu'minuna is?
It's a word coming after the action with a doer label, una.
Good. Which
so
means
it's the doer.
Yeah, it's an outside doer. So you see these 3 rules checking off all the time. When you have an outside doer, your action is always either in the hua form or the hiya form. And then the doer is after and it has a doer label, which we already knew.
Okay.
Is that clear?
So the only new rule is rule number 3, the action can only be in hua or hiya form.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
So about rule number 3, can we kind of work backwards in terms of our logic and say that if an action is not in the hua or hiya form, then it cannot have an outside doer?
Yes. So if you see, for example, ja'alu, you've already found your doer. There's not going to be an outside doer.
Okay, so if I see anything but the hua or hiya, I know that the doer is going to be embedded and I don't have to look for an outside doer.
Exactly. So once you've found an embedded doer, right, there's not going to be an outside doer.
Okay.
But if you see something in hua hiya form, you will want to check for an outside doer.
Okay. I have another question.
Yeah.
So what if we have an action that is in the hua or hiya form, but we don't have an outside doer?
That's a good question. So if you have an action that's in the hua hiya form and you don't have an outside doer, that means that your doer is hua or hiya. It's embedded. Okay. So for example,
because an action sentence always needs a doer.
It needs a doer, right? It needs a doer. So if we say, for example, arsala ar-rasula. Can you work through this for me?
Arsala is a past tense action.
Good.
And then ar-rasula is a word with a receiver label.
Which makes it the receiver, obviously. And so where's our doer?
Then I guess it has to be embedded.
It's embedded, and then what's embedded within arsala?
Arsala, the fatha tells us hua.
Hua form, right? So hua form. So he sent the prophet, or he sent the messenger. So yeah, if you have an outside doer, the action has to be in the hua or hiya form, but just because it's in the hua or hiya form doesn't necessarily mean that there will be an outside doer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that sound too theoretical? You got it.
It's a little theoretical, but I think I get it.
Okay. So are we all clear on outside doers and embedded doers?
Yeah.
And we remember our new rule?
Yeah. The action, so in order to have an outside doer, the action has to be in hua or hiya form.
Very good.
So that was the only really new piece of information.
Yeah.